So we're working on this log building here, and one thing that those that work in a lot of log stuff will notice right off the bat is when you look at our corners, our logs are not staggered. They're in the same or at the same level. And so how do we fix that? So let's start off with talking about how these walls work. And so ultimately what we're doing here is we have kind of two walls going on. And so the first wall we have going on is our log wall. So let's find that here. We have this log wall. So we have this 13-inch Swedish cope. Let me just check that what we're using. 13-inch Swedish cope. So I'm just going to model one off to the side here. So we have a 13-inch Swedish cope with this log wall here. And so how this log wall works is if we go to edit type and we go to, doesn't like me, we go to our edit structure, we have this set up as just being a thin airspace of 16 inches or 1/16 of an inch. And ultimately that's just a line right here. And so how this wall actually works is we have a sweep, and we've manually created this sweep going from 6.5 inches all the way up. And so if we want to change our log type, for example, we would have to go in here and edit our different log that we're using. So each one we have to manually select. So how do we create a stagger is the question. So essentially what we want to do is we want to start off with a half log. So let me see here. Do we have a half log loaded? I don't think we do. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create a profile for a half log. So right now we're using this 13-inch log. I'm just going to change all these to be logs. So let's go out of here for a second. Let me hit cancel. And we're going to create a couple different profiles. So how do we find profiles? So let's go down here at the bottom. And we want to go to profiles. Where's my profiles? There we go, profiles. And we have our 13-inch log profile, and we have our Swedish cope here. I'm going to make some changes here. So we're going to rename this Swedish cope, and we'll just call this log Swedish cope, if it lets me. Actually, let's go back 1 second. So let's go to our Swedish cope. We're going to rename this. So we're going to call this log profile or log dash Swedish cope. I try to make things as simple as possible. So let's go to edit. And we have a radius here of 6.5, and so that defines our log profile. So let's go up into our parameters, and our radius is 6.5. So what I'm going to do just to make this simple here, I'm going to add another profile and call it diameter. Because I think for most people, the diameter is a little bit easier to figure out. So our diameter obviously is going to be double our radius. And so now we have this 13-inch log here. And let's just make sure everything works. Let's click apply. Nothing happens. I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to call this 13-inch. And let's go down to a 14-inch, and let's just make sure this works. Click apply, and so it gets bigger. Cool. So that works. So let's save this and put this into our profile folder here. And let's load in the project and close. And what we're going to do is we're now going to create another profile, and we're going to call this a half log profile. And so let's go to edit that same profile we created. We've kind of had these profiles for a while, so I'm making some changes as we go here. So we're going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to call this the same name, but it's going to be Swedish Cope, and then it's going to be half log. And we're just going to use this profile ultimately once. So we're going to delete this bottom piece, and basically what we're going to do is this profile here is going to stop at our line. So essentially you're going to put a half profile down. So let's draw a line here, and we're just going to draw that like that. So same thing basically. Let's just double check both of our parameters work. 13, click apply. So let's go into here and let's just, actually let's load this in. Load this into project. And so this part's going to require a bit of work, but essentially what we're going to do is we're going to copy this log profile over for a second. I'm going to just organize myself a little bit here. So we want our walls to be, so let's just, so log wall 13-inch Swedish cope, and then we're going to call this dash half start. Actually, you know what? Let's, I'm going to hit cancel for a second. Just go back in. We want to edit our log profile first. And so the error message it keeps giving me is not a big deal. I think the other thing I'm going to actually switch for this is, we'll leave it actually. We'll leave it. So what we need to do is we need to change all of our walls to be our 13-inch log that we just created. And the way this will work, which is kind of a little bit annoying for most people when they come from a traditional wood framing platform, is these walls, they have to be kind of somewhat of a fixed height, because you don't really want to stop at a half wall at the top. I mean, you can start with a half wall, but you don't want to stop with a half wall. So what we would typically do when we're designing with a log system is we would just figure out where that stop needs to be and ultimately modify our ceiling heights or floor heights or whatever to match that system. So we have our 13-inch log going all the way up. I'm going to click OK. Orientation, offset from base. So this is an offset in from the middle. Yeah, I think that's okay for now. The one change I was considering making was making this structure the thickness of a stud, which we would likely have at a bottom plate. So I'm going to click OK twice here. And again, this is just saying that the sweep profile, our log profile, is outside of our 16-inch airspace there. So that's obviously not a big deal. So we got our two log profiles there. Again, we're getting our error message again. And let's duplicate, and we'll just call this half log start. And let's go into our structure here. Let's go into our sweep. And we're just going to change our first log to be our half log 13-inch. And the thing with this is we need to then change our offset distance. So we want this offset to be 0. So this one will be 1. And I think we're basically going to remove the half all the way up, or 6.5 all the way up. So it actually makes this math not so bad. And the reason so our log is 13 inch. Might have to check and see if this actually works, but I think ultimately a 12-inch log. I mean, I guess math is not necessarily changing, but I think just the logs are offset into each other, so we can check that after. What I often do when I'm doing these sweep profiles, you can do this with siding and different things, is I just do it in an Excel just to get all these numbers down, and then that way there's less thinking. So let's click OK. I'm just going to zoom in on our profile here. Yeah, okay, so that offset's fine with the logs, so cool. All right, sweet. So let's click OK here, and we'll click OK. And so now you can see one of our logs starts at a half log, and the other one starts at a full. So let's go here, and I believe in here we're using a stacked wall. Oh no, we're not. Okay, so now we just want to be strategic. So what I would do is I would pick all these walls that are going the opposite direction. We would make all of these walls our half log. So let's, what logs do we have here? Select all instances, entire project. So let's make all of these logs our 13-inch round. I don't know if they need to be stacked walls. We'll find out in a second, but what we often use the stacked walls for when we a wood frame wall maybe halfway up. They do that a lot because it makes framing sometimes simpler. So anyways, so I'm going to grab all these walls going in the one direction, and it looks like I need to grab this fascia piece as well. And let's make this to half log start. I don't probably want this upper one to be a half log start, but change that back. There we go. And so now we have a staggered look to our logs. And this one I'm just going to lower down a little bit. And we just got to bring these logs in a little bit. When you have these gable end walls, it kind of gets a little finicky. There we go. So now we have our half log start there. And it looks like we've got a transom issue there with our door. We'll have to look at that. We have them at these as well. So I think in this case, what do we have going on here? Yeah, so I think in this case we would raise our trim up if that's what the client wanted, if they wanted that log to be full. But yeah, that's essentially how you make that staggered look of the logs.